Preparing to live stream.
You can set this so they're side by side, can't you? There we go.
Yeah, I've got it on speaker view. So we are live. I'm just going to turn the sound off there. I'm going to go back to us. And there we are. Hey, folks. Good evening. It's Monday again. It comes around every week, doesn't it? It's so predictable. 8 o'clock. You'll see it's not just me here tonight. I'm joined by the fabulous, drum roll, Mr. Simon Bourne. Hello, Mr. Simon Bourne.
Good evening. Good evening, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
It's good to have you here. I'm going to give you a big, massive intro in a moment. So we'll just give people a second or so to join. Hope you've had a great weekend, everyone. We had a few days out. We went down to Somerset, in case, I don't know if any of you know where Somerset is. I don't even think I knew where it was. To a place called Minehead. Some of you might know Minehead. Not a lot goes on in Minehead, seemingly, other than Butlins. And they've got a nice beach.
Quite a lot goes on in my head, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah, there's a fair bit.
Really? Well, There's an amusement arcade, which I seem to have lost half of the money that I had in the world in the amusement arcade, Mia. So, but anyway, we had a few days getting away, bit of rest, bit of downtime, bit of fresh air, sea air, and now we're back in the big smoke. So, okay, so good. So I have no idea how many people are on, but that's good anyway. Most importantly, I have Mr. Simon Bourne with me tonight. And Mr. Simon Bourne is shoemaker extraordinaire. As you'll see behind him, he's not just sitting in a shoe shop. Those are his shoes.
Yeah,
he's going to tell you all about that in a moment. The thing about Simon is, I think a lot of people, you tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of people will meet Simon and go, extrovert, hugely confident, bold, probably quite in your face, probably as we might go, a real entrepreneur. He's got a bit of push about him, a bit of energy. And I think that would be a lot of people's experience of you, right? In first meeting. And actually the reality is when you strip away the surface and you look behind the curtains and you look backstage, actually there's someone there that would admit himself, and we'll talk about this evening, can be anxious, can lack confidence, can run all kinds of incredible stories about himself and how good he is and being on form and being the best and pushing himself. And, he's set for business stardom if he isn't, very close already with the hand-dyed shoe company. Again, he's going to tell us more about that and how he got to this point. And the reason for me having Simon on here tonight is not just because he's fascinating and fun and engaging and inspiring, is because over the last few weeks and months, we've started to talk a lot on the Facebook Lives about mental hygiene, good mind hygiene. So we take it for granted that we wash our bodies, we wash our hands after we've been to the toilet, hopefully. We have a shower, we use deodorant, we look after the vessel, the physical vessel, and we tend not to think about how we clean our minds. So we've talked a lot about that, about depression. We touched on depression, anxiety. We had last week, Joe Wilson. We talked about confidence. We talked about vulnerability. And in the BTFI group, I asked people a couple of months ago, what's the stuff you want to talk about? What do you want us to focus on? This group is for you. And many of the top areas were around mindset, thinking, attitude, confidence, courage, self-belief, all of that stuff. So if you're watching this and you're not part of the BTFI group, we'll chuck the link in the comments below. Come and join us, hang out with us, a group of entrepreneurs, movers, shakers, thought leaders, people that are going to kick your backside and give you some tough love and hugs when you need it and ensure you keep taking action. So come and join us. And so tonight is Mr. Simon Bourne. Now, I first came across Simon, wasn't actually that long ago, through LinkedIn. And a friend of mine, Gary King, was always liking and commenting on this guy called Simon Bourne and his shoes, photos of a cool pair of shoes. I'd go, oh, cool shoes. And I'd have a look and I'd go, oh, nice. And I was running a conference for a client in London, and there was a guy there who had really cool shoes. And I went to him and I said, oh, I know, you're going to like this guy that I found on LinkedIn. I don't know what his name is, but he's got really cool shoes. So Ollie had a look and he went, oh, you're really cool. The next thing I know is Ollie's ordered like 3 or 4 pairs of shoes from Simon. I still haven't got any shoes at this point from Simon. Anyway, wind the clock on. I'm now the proud owner of a pair of Simon's hand-dyed shoes, which I love. If you want to check them out, we put a photo of them in the BTFI group. So head on over to the BTFI group and you'll see them there in their glory. And well, here he is, Mr. Bourne. It's good to have you here.
Good evening. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It was very, very pleasant. And yeah, describe me as all of those things, I think would be very fair. So yeah, thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. I know we've spent a bit of time together, and we've done an interview already that we filmed for another time to push out. And it was meant to be quite a short interview, and I know we went on quite a while, and that is not because I can talk. But there's so much to you, and I guess there is to all of us, right? We start to peel away the layers and we get more and more fascinated and more curious by what's going on behind the scenes. And so I think the purpose for getting you on here this evening is to put you out there to all the people that are going to be fascinated to hear your story and hear what you do, and the hurdles and the burning hoops of fire you've jumped through to get there. So sure, I'm just got to say, I love the tank top.
Thank you very much. I actually got this in probably around 2008, 2009 from a charity shop. I think it cost me about £2.50, and it's been with me throughout many journeys, actually, including a trip to Vegas. It's been with me on interviews, and yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those items of clothes that just stays with you, and you just know you'll have it forever. Yeah, cool tank top. Tank top are real.
I love it. Yeah, I think we need to. Maybe we could set up a Facebook group for kind of bigging up tank tops.
Yeah. I think so. Maybe there's a business there somewhere.
Maybe. Folks, if you want to ask questions as we go on, I know you'll have some questions. Chuck them in the comments, and we can pick them up at the end. So let's kick off. Simon, what would be a great starting point would be for you to tell us a bit about your business.
Sure.
And almost how it's become an extension of your personality, and how it allows you to express yourself fully. I think that's really important, because all of you oozes out through your business.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, my business is the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company, and it started in 2014. And when I say it started, that's when the cogs started to generate in my mind about wanting to be an entrepreneur and own my own business. And it took a couple of years to sort of establish anything. And a large part of that was because I'm not from a business background. I haven't been brought up by business. I didn't even really understand what an entrepreneur was, or a business, what the requirements were to be a business owner. Where's the job description for that? I didn't know that. I didn't know what it was. So when you touch on like how it's become an extension of me, I think it became an extension of me because I didn't know any other way. It was just me. It was just my creativity pouring out into a product and into an idea that ultimately has formed a brand, has formed something that people seem to like, and has given me, if anything, like just oodles of purpose and responsibility and comfort in my own skin, I think is the best way to describe it.
I love that, because do you think careers advisors now are sitting down with people and going through the list of things they could be, and do you think they come up with entrepreneur?
No, because I wrote a post recently on LinkedIn about what is an entrepreneur. What seriously, like if anyone's got the answer out there, who knows? Am I one? Are you one? Is my nephew one that was with me the other week because he was asking questions about business. What is the criteria? And what point do you say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur now? Like, is it just starting a business? Is it having an idea? What is an entrepreneur?
It's interesting. I read something probably a month or two ago where they'd asked, they put out to a load of kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? They wanted to pull out of it, what's the career at the moment that's on the kids' minds? The kids of around 14, 15. And one of the boys answered, I want to be an entrepreneur. And they said, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? And they said, because they make loads of money and have nice cars and nice houses.
Right. And I suppose that's the assumption, isn't it? That an entrepreneur is somebody walking around with, 10 businesses and pocket full of money. They've got 6 cars and 6 holidays a year. Like, far from it, really.
Based on that criteria, I am not.
Yeah, you only have 5 holidays, so.
Easy, one would be nice. Somerset, that's it. That's our holiday this year.
Yeah. So entrepreneurialism. I think my journey in entrepreneurialism started when I was 17, and that started. And I'm going to touch upon that in a little bit with a little photo journey that I've got for you. What I say that is because I didn't realise this. A quest to be a sports journalist had anything to do with entrepreneurialism. It was just me fulfilling a hobby or trying to break down a door into a dream, and so I spent hours upon hours in my spare time for about 7 or 8 years just building experience and trying new things to try and break into the sports journalism industry while working full time at the same, alongside of it. So entrepreneurialism, there is no definition. Like, realistically, I think now because I suppose I would class myself as an entrepreneur now because I've got a business, but like the actual entrepreneur in me was there from a very young age, really.
This bit that fascinates me about you is this, you've created something that is an extension of who you are, the essence of you, your DNA, all that you stand for comes through in everything that you do. And I think that's really interesting about how people can grab some of that for themselves, because I think what I see, and maybe you see too, is that a lot of people that do set up their own businesses fall into shoulds or musts or needing to conform to what others have done. And therefore, as soon as they start to do that, they tend to lose some of that piece that makes you so special, is that personality piece, and they lose their edge and their spirit.
Yeah, I see, you hear the words quite a lot, don't you? I saw a gap in the market. And actually, like, that's bullshit. Like, for me, it's absolute bull. Like, really, I mean, I suppose some people are business minded and they can see an opportunity to slip a product in there and invest loads of money in it. But actually, like, the real businesses the businesses that I love anyway are the businesses where there's a person and there's a great brand and a story behind it. Joe Malone. I don't buy much makeup, but that's that kind of story. In terms of it's started in a kitchen and it's somebody who's built it and it's grown and expanded, and it's all done through a love of a product or a love of a journey or a vision or something like that. I think those are the real breakthrough businesses that are romantic and
but I guess if people set out to build their business because it's for money, so that's what they're driven by, of how do I make some money, then they're going to do the gap in the market thinking, right? That's going to be a driver. And for you, what was your driver for setting up the business?
Oh, my driver was I wanted to create something that I could be really proud of, and I talk a lot about this legacy that I feel like I'm on a mission to build. Now, my legacy isn't to be a millionaire. My legacy isn't to drive a Porsche while I would love a Porsche. My legacy is about creating something that when I'm dead and there's a funeral, and people are going to talk about me as in, like, bloody hell, he did some monumental ththings. And that's what drives me, is that, like, I suppose it's a touch of acceptance and like a touch of I want to be somebody. Do you know what I mean? And not just somebody. I drive down the street quite often and I look at other businesses, so just small businesses which are fantastic. The local florist, who's been there for 50 years, and I go, what a great little business that is. But I look at mine and I just go, there's more to this. There's so much more. Like, it's not disrespectful to the local florist. I just mean that I want to create this legacy, this thing that people just go, bloody hell, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I wasn't expecting Simon Bourne to achieve these things. And I think that's what drives me every day. So, like, when I wake up and I feel a bit edgy or a bit worried or a bit anxious about doing a Facebook Live, I just think, well, do you know what? It's part of it's just, I've got to do it. I've just got to do it.
So how much of that, sorry for cutting you in, how much of that is actually about doing it for others, so what others look and see about you and wow, Simon Bourne, and how much of it is the intrinsic piece
I think
for you?
It's more the intrinsic piece for me. So when your very first question about your business has become an extension of you, like my business has given me so much purpose and so much reason to live, and that's such a strong statement. But like it's allowed me to wear this tank top and just be fine about it, you know. Whereas 8-9 years ago when I bought this tank top, I probably bought it to try and be different and to try and to forge this perception of confidence and superiority, and like that I am so, you know, I never felt it, and I think that's probably why this has given me so much reason, you know, and so much, you know, every positive comment, every satisfied customer, everybody who tells me that this guy that I'm on a quest to stardom makes me think, bloody hell, like I'm doing something all right there. Like it's great, you know, and I think that I do think I've found my calling, so to speak.
So loads of people, we've said, who knows, I got no idea what an entrepreneur is, and loads of other people haven't, and almost it doesn't matter. What we do know is loads of people will think that the life of an entrepreneur is quite rosy and kind of, you know, flash and all colorful and bright and sparkly, and kind of forget that reality that behind the scenes there are dark days, and there are a ton of tough times. And I know that you talk quite openly about, you know, the dark days and the kind of shadow self that kind of looms behind you. So I'd love you to tell us a bit more about that, and what happens when the darker side comes out to play and how you deal with it.
Yeah, and just before I do start this, then I do also want to say that being an entrepreneur is rosy. Like it is like the most satisfying thing that I've ever done in my entire life. You know, I've never ever been happier than I am right now, you know, and I think that's really important. So before I get quite deep into this journey of sort of what can be quite an emotional thing, you know, and quite a deep mind battle, if that's what I tend to call them, a mind battle. I just wanted to start by saying that you know, I'm in a really good place. So I've prepared a little story for you actually, which I'm going to just take the viewers through. So if I just introduce this fella, I don't know if you can just catch up. Right. So this is me in 1989 and a very, very dapper suit. I must say that my parents did all right back then. It's not really relevant to an entrepreneur, but I just thought, you know, if we're going to tell this story, I'll start right at the beginning.
And you've got a handbag as well in it.
And what a very fine handbag. I'm sure it was Prada. I'm sure it was. This is me some years later. And this is a girl I met in 2001. And I was 17 at the time. Generally wore a cap, tracksuit bottoms, trainers, that type of thing. I was taking her out for dinner this night, and I bought her this dress for Christmas. And it was the first time I'd ever taken a girl for dinner, and I was absolutely brick shitting it. And this photo was taken. This is actually my dad's shirt. He lent me this really probably £2 watch, and the black trousers as well. So yeah, not much sort of style or edge or confidence going on there, that's for sure. Whereas this guy, you may think has a bit more confidence. This is probably my early 20s, but my story with anxiety really does start here. And I'm not afraid to show it because it's funny for a start, but actually, like the reason I've got these red trousers on and a purple cardigan and some sort of nest on my head, it was a need to stand out. It was a need to be different. I've had these urges ever since I was really young that I needed to be creative in fashion and in job and career and everything that I'm doing. And I suppose that's what started to happen. And as I go through sort of my 20s, slightly less facial hair going on here, people see a brash, confident guy, but actually, realistically, what's going on in my head here, black beard and blonde hair, like I'm not really sure what's happening there. I don't know what's happened here. I don't know how that slipped in there. We'll move swiftly on from that. But this is quite a really sort of emotional photo for me. So this is a photograph with a guy called Fabrizio Colaccini, who was a footballer for Newcastle. And this is going back to those days of wanting to be a journalist. And if you YouTube my name and Colaccini, you'll find an interview that I did with Colaccini. And the reason I didn't ever become a journalist was because I was never confident enough. And you can actually hear it if you YouTube it and listen to that interview back. You can hear the stress and the anxiety coming out in my voice, in the sense of just asking somebody a question. But there was a lack of belief, and there was a lack of, I didn't have the purpose. So when I'm talking about the purpose with the hand-dyed shoe company, I didn't have the purpose for that. I wanted the desire, and you know, I didn't believe I could do it, and I always believed that I couldn't do it. And I developed this relationship at this point of an obsession with the word can't. You can't do it. You know, I can't be a journalist. So, and that's what drove me to go and do that interview, despite the feelings of anxiety and deep anxiety. And that's what's coming across. If you listen to the interview back on YouTube, you can hear it, the anxiety. I was mortified that morning knowing that I had to go and do that, but I still did it. I still did it because I couldn't deal with the word can't. You can't do it. So I'm going to go and do it anyway, even though I feel like I don't want to do it. You know, so I went for it. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Where did you get that push that comes from you about not being able to deal with the word can't? Where did you get that from? Where did you learn that from?
Oh goodness, I think truthfully, I think it probably goes back to school, and probably a bit of bullying and things like that, where people would tell me that I'm not good enough to play for the football team. Even though I just wanted to play for the football team, I wasn't good enough to go out with that girl, all of those things. And I think that's probably, if I'm getting, without getting into the psychological warfare of my brain, I suppose, that's probably where it comes from, is that like a lot of what I do even now goes back to sort of school. And there's nothing gives me more satisfaction, I don't think, than getting a comment on Facebook from a former peer, to say, Bob, you're doing all right there, Bonnie, you're doing all right. And it's just like, do you know what? Fucking yes, I am doing all right. And so can't isn't a can't, it's a can. And look what I can do. And I suppose that's driving this legacy, this need to create legacy, because nobody expected me to have a legacy. I was just a little freak boy at school, and a bit weird, and who wanted to be different. I just want to show you this picture. This is me and my mum on my wedding day. Blonde hair, no beard. I woke up in the morning, I had stubble pretty much like this, and I just shaved it all off. And the driving force behind that, when I look back now, was that I didn't feel different enough. I felt like everybody had seen me with stubble for probably 3-4 months before that, so I shaved it all off. And probably something that I regret a little bit now, because that really wasn't me. Like, it wasn't my look then. This was more me, big black beard and some sort of quiff. This is me picking up an award in 2011, it'll have been. And I was nominated for this award working for the local authority, for the children's services and children and young people services. And it was all about innovation and creation. So while working in a marketing role, I was nominated for an award because of kind of the creativity that I brought. And I remember when I was nominated for that, I felt deeply embarrassed. I felt like I didn't deserve it, and I didn't deserve that kind of recognition. And so what I'm trying to tell you really is that the anxiety, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because it stems what I've become now in this business, and why now actually I can talk about this I don't have anxiety about talking about this. It's just part of it. Go on.
Yeah, because I know there'll be people watching that are also battling their stuff, and we're all battling our stuff, right? Yeah. And some of us battle it better. Some of us kind of sidestep it. Some of us allow it to dominate, and there will be people watching that still allow that story to dominate, yeah. and it becomes dominant. How do you keep stepping up? Because you've obviously, for quite a long time now, you continue to step up and step into it or step over it and kind of pick yourself up. But there'll be a lot of people watching that just really struggle to pick themselves up. I know you talk really openly that that's still the reality for you now. Some mornings you don't know when that part's going to get you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the thing that it is that thing that you've talked about before, which is my comfort zone. So my comfort zone generally doesn't exist because like I can't, there's not many things in the world that I wouldn't do. So I can't stand flying. I'm absolutely petrified of flying, but I'll fly anywhere in the world. You know, that's my attitude. That's the way I am. So like, you know, doing a Facebook Live, I don't feel particularly like this is a lovely experience, you know, and things like that, but I'll do it because actually I think it's beneficial for myself. I think it's beneficial for, you know, I can help you in your mission, and hopefully if there's a few people watching, I can help them too by just sharing this story and the fact that this is real. This is not something that I've made up for a brand. It's just that it's just part of who I am. And I think that if I can inspire just one or two people and just say, well, do you know what, whoever is watching and might be suffering themselves with anxiety, depression, whatever sort of you know, maybe not even a mental illness, just a block, just a worry or a concern or something like that you know, look at the brand that I've created in terms of my business and how well it's received on LinkedIn and how it's grown continuously and how I'm building a plan and I am actually chasing this legacy and I'm gonna fucking get there. You know, like that's how I feel. Like that's what I mean. So that's what I live outside my comfort zone. I don't really have a comfort zone. If you want me to sing Craig David, I'll sing Craig David songs to you. You know,
go on then.
Really?
You offered.
How many people are watching?
8,763.
I was checking the girl next door when her parents went out. The phone said, "Hey girl, come on right around." So knocked on the door, sent me the keys in the hand to the 4x4, jumped in a ride chicken that nobody saw. Is that it? Sorry.
That's great.
All right.
We've just lost 8,762 people. Oh well, shit.
Is your mum still on?
Who cares? And one of the things that is I found so engaging about you, just in watching your story play out in front of me on LinkedIn, was that almost second were your shoes. I mean, your shoes are fucking awesome. That kind of go, that's the less interesting piece. Yeah. The shoes are just fucking awesome. They speak for themselves. But this other bit about, you know, you are so vulnerable. Although you go, you know, the comfort zone, I just keep pushing the comfort zone. Actually, you're really open about it and you talk about it and you, you know, own when you screw up and you own when you're tough. Yeah. You own when it's tough and you own when you're uncomfortable. And I think that's a really important part, isn't it, for you? But it's also a really important part for your story, for your audience to get your story.
Yeah, I think I remember sitting probably about a year ago now with the guy you mentioned before, Gary King, and we were sitting in the Scotch corner. It was the first time I'd ever met him, and he was a customer of mine. We started chatting about shoes, and ultimately, I was trying to sell him some shoes, and we did some business, and that was good. But we also started talking about brand, and Gary's got a marketing company, and we started talking about and I said to him, I says, well, you know, Gary, I says, there's an article that I'd really like to put out there around being an entrepreneur and living daily, weekly, monthly with anxiety and the thoughts that kind of I wake up to, you know, and I said, I'd really like to put it out there, but I'm just really nervous that like people will read it and they'll think that I'm just a soft touch, or I'm not that I'm emotional or over emotional, and that they would see it as a PR stunt or something like that. And in the end, I just thought, and Gary said, well, you know, if you feel it, then you should do it. You know, you should put it out there. And I suppose that gave us the tipping point to say, right, okay, I'm going to do it. It was about a month later then when I kind of gathered my thoughts and thought, right, how do I put this down? And I wrote an article which is still out there on LinkedIn called The Suicidal Entrepreneur. And what I was getting at, yes, of course, it was a dramatic headline. But, you know, I've had thoughts about suicide in the past. I've had thoughts about ending things, you know, and because I'm so wrapped up in this deep anxiety about this I can't run a business because I don't know anything about accounts and I don't give a shit about VAT. Like, so I can't run a business. So, you know, because I've just spent an hour with some guy and all he's talked about is tax and 0.2% of fuck, who knows, you know, like, so like that would, what would happen in my head then is then I start to go, well, I can't do this because he's obviously a businessman. He's a businessman. And I use that term a lot. Oh, businessman, you know. And so I wrote this article and I put it out there and I said, this is how I feel about being an entrepreneur. I wasn't suicidal when I wrote it or anything like that. And I haven't been for a long time. But I was certainly just in a place, you know, where I was just reaching out to people. And the response I got from it was just overwhelming. It was just like the amount of messages I got of support saying, well done, you know, how brave you are. And even that makes me cringe a little bit that I'm brave. I'm a brave, I don't know. I just put it out there because I felt like I should. And if anything, it just gave me the encouragement to think, do you know what? Like, it's good. Like, it's good that I'm vulnerable. It's good. Look how many people are responding to it. My connections, and I'm not saying for 1 second somebody should go out and write an article like that, but I think I probably gained 500 connections from that article, which then in turn, the next week when I'm posting a picture of a pair of shoes, well, you know, like it's good. So vulnerability is a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm not saying that everybody should be going out there and creating pain, do you know what I mean, or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is be honest, be genuine, be true to yourself, put the honest version of you out, and people will buy into that.
Yeah, it doesn't work if we do it as a gimmick.
Well, you'll get found out. You'll get found out.
Of course you will.
I couldn't sit here now talking about this with my eyes like puffing up and, you know, like if it was fake, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't do it, you know. So that's why and it helps me. So I'm digressing slightly, but it helps me. It helps me now because from that very moment, almost that day, I had somewhere to release. I had somewhere where I could just go, do you know what? This is how I feel. I'm putting it out there. This is how I feel. And then I get almost instant feedback and instant people saying, go for it, Simon, you're doing great. You know, you've done a good thing, that you're a good person, and that, you know, all of these things that sometimes I probably forget a little bit. And so it helps me. So when I go back to the beginning of this story about purpose, my business has given me purpose. It's given me reason. You know, it's given us everything that I needed just to be okay in my own brain. Okay. And probably more than okay, because like I said before, entrepreneurialism is rosy.
Yeah. I'm pleased that Gary King gave you that nod to go do it. Gary King's watching, by the way.
Oh, hi, Gary.
Hello, Gary. You know, because a lot of people think that vulnerability is a bad thing, don't they? An attempt to it's still seen as a bit of a weakness, and we push it away. And I just love that you have found so much richness in it, actually, and for yourself personally, that being able to express, but also for your audience. So those are gone.
Just very, very quickly. In my previous employment, I was once told that I was too emotional to be a manager, to manage people, and I was too, you know, it was perceived as a weakness. And interestingly, the where this feedback came from was the typical stereotypical bullish leader, you know, who actually probably couldn't motivate anybody because, you know, he didn't have any sort of relationship or understanding with the people that were essentially on the front line, so out there selling furniture. And I just think that I believed it for a while. Actually, I thought, yeah, I'm too emotional. But actually, I had an award-winning team. We won 2 awards. We had the best customer service in the entire company over a year in one of the most difficult stores to work in. And if anything, I think the fact that I was emotional being passion, emotional being excited, and I love this, and all of these things, that's why people bought it, and that's why my team bought it, and that's why we ended up being very, very successful. So if anybody's out there has ever been told you're too emotional to do anything, stuff that. Like, I
mean, that shit story's peddled a lot, isn't it? And I see it a lot in corporates where people are told that they're too emotional, and kind of it's way more about toning it down. And then what do? They invest thousands upon thousands of pounds in then getting people to turn it up.
Plateau. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not compelling enough. You're not inspiring. You're not passionate. You're not authentic. You're not big enough. You're like fucking, it's confusing for people, right?
Yeah, massively.
So I'm aware of the time. The time's looking at me in the corner going, it's 35 and
oh goodness,
we've still got another 17 questions to go. So, but look, just tell me in a sentence or two and about, so when you wake up with your dark days now,
yeah.
what's your strategy for moving through?
I call my tribe, my people. So it might be usually the first person in my tribe is my wife, to say, listen, I'm not having a good day today. I don't feel very good. I feel overwhelmed with whatever it is that's because generally that's where it starts with me, is an overwhelming feeling of something. And she'll then kick my ass a little bit and say, remember you wanted this, and I'll be like, yes, I did want this. And then it might lead to, do you know what it normally leads to is doing something that I almost force myself to do something that I really don't want to do. So I'm more productive almost on those days because I get the shit done that I really don't want to do, because I start doing that stuff because it's a rebellious side. It's like, it's this, right, okay, you're feeling like that. Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to ring that person who you've been putting off for the last 6 weeks or whatever, and just start a conversation, and whether it leads to anything or nothing, but that's so in actual fact, the dark days can quite often become the best days, because they're the ones where I get the shit done.
It's great that you have that frame around it, though, that you go, tough day, not feeling great, and actually you lean into it, whereas many will lean out and create a story for leaning out, but you create a story for yourself that actually pulls you in.
Yeah, it's like the Suicidal Entrepreneur, that article. It's like, woke up that day and I went, right, today's the day I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to write that article that I've been putting off for so long because I feel anxious about writing it. So I'm going to write it, and I wrote it and I put it out there. And by the end of the day, I felt like 15 years of inner worry, had been released, and I felt, okay, this is okay. This is okay to be this person and to express myself, and just to say that, this is how I feel sometimes. And actually, if anything, it's probably a good thing for my business because it helps it to seed.
It's so important, isn't it, that actually what that vulnerability allows you that outlet. And we talked, on the on the Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago, when we started to talk about depression, and we talked about the Calm group, and 84 male, we lose 84 men each week to suicide, take their own life. And for a lot of people, that's because they don't have that route out, they don't have that channel, they don't have that tribe, or even whether they're comfortable enough to share it with them. But that, you have that brilliant resource network you built around you, starting with your wife. But you've also, it feels like you've learned for yourself that you've got to lean into that. You've got to lean into the pain, open the outlet, allow the stuff to come out that needs to come out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, and I'm not naive enough to think that I'm never going to have a dark day again. And I might be in a really dark place one day again. Who knows? You know what I mean? I don't think, this is only my personal view, and forgive me if there's any doctors watching, I don't think there's a definitive cure to mental issues. Like, there are strategies you can put in place to help it. And I think that's ultimately what I've done, is I've found my own strategy and my own mechanism that helps me just nurture it and use it to my own advantage almost. And I think, that's, I'm not saying, everybody should go and, the key is speaking, whether you're speaking to a doctor or speaking to a wife or your tribe, your people, just create, you've got to create your own network. And ultimately that's what I've done. And most people around me are aware of it, and they can see it, and just know when to just give me a kick up the arse and just refocus a little bit and get back on the straight and narrow.
And I talk a lot about and certainly when I worked with people that had depression and anxiety and OCD and all kinds of things, is I talk about how, if we hold it as something that we have, then it's really hard for us ever to break through that. But if we hold it as something that we do, so you do a series of thoughts, processes that allow you to go into overwhelm, that mean the place that you land is one of overwhelm, feeling anxious, feeling darker that day. But it is a series of, and if we hold it as a series of habits that we run, a series of thoughts, a series of behaviors, we can also hold it as we don't have to do those habits and thoughts and behaviors. We can do different ones that give us a different outcome. And actually that's what you've just talked about, is that you don't have this thing. You don't have this thing where you take tablets for it every day, because you have days that are your awesome days, where you wake up and the world is bright and open and free and there are choices. And there are days where you do some stuff, or you do some stuff leading up to it, that means that morning you wake up and it's a darker day. And then you do some different things.
And that's it. And just, it's just having the coping strategy in place.
So look, if you were giving, let's kind of pull some thoughts together. If you were giving, your top tips, your top resources, whatever you would want to leave the people that are watching this, what would you want to leave them with around, how do they navigate it? Because I know everyone that watches this will be touched by you, how open your heart is, who you are, your purpose, all that you talk about. And some are fighting their own battles in some way. So what would you say?
I would, I go back to encouraging people to talk and speak to your network, speak to your partners, friends, colleagues, the group. I mean, it is unbelievable how many people will support you and will just admire the fact that you've got the balls to just be open about it, and just to say, you know what, fucking sick of me business, it's doing me head in. I need a couple of days away, and I felt like that's when I came back from London. After we met the other week, I had a couple of days and I was just like, oh God, I don't want this. That was hard. That was 7 days and it was that feeling of overwhelmment. And do you know what I did? I came to work. I came back down and I did a couple of jobs that I didn't really want to do. And all of a sudden the energy started to flow again. And I had a nice day off with my family last Thursday, and we went out, and had a nice day around a museum and such. And yeah, like that's the trick. So like, it's just being aware and confident enough just to speak to somebody. And by the way, just while we're on that, my telephone number is 07553 664 706, info@handeyechewco.com. If anybody ever wants to pour their emotions, just get in touch. Like, I'm always up for a chat.
You are you are quite remarkable, and whether you believe it or not, you are. And I say not simply just for your product and the love and the passion that you put into everything that you create, and your customer service experience. I know you talk that people aren't your clients or your customers, they're actually your friends, and that kind of, you run a business from a place of love.
Yeah.
And you're also a remarkable human being too, for your story, for how you deal with it, how you work it out, how you find a solution, how you sit with the tough stuff, how you share the tough stuff. And you're a great bloke, Simon Bourne. I haven't got much else to say, actually, because it's just, I get, every time I speak to you and every time I see what you do and hear what you do, I get so moved by it. And I think, that reality of there are many, many people on this planet that struggle with the same dark stuff that you deal with, and don't have the personal inner resource to push through it, don't have the tribe, don't have the courage to.
Everybody does, Richard.
They do if they go and find it, I think, and if they hunt it down, and if they're prepared to kind of look inside. And we're still living in a space, aren't we, where it's relatively untapped, and it isn't talked about much, and there's still such a stigma associated with it.
Yeah, this is it. It's a world where people in corporate jobs tell people that you can be too emotional. There's, I think the key, you opened up with it, express yourself. And I think that's whatever your self is, express it and be confident in it and just own it, and I think that, all of those photographs I showed, I never owned it until I started this. And then now I felt like, I own this now. And like, I can be this and be comfortable in it and just put it out there, put it out there and enjoy the ride. But thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a real pleasure. We will chuck, we probably won't put your mobile phone number in, but we will put a link to your site in, and people can track you down. And I know you're in the BTFI group.
Yeah,
so people can find you there. For those of you that aren't in the BTFI group, come and join it, even if it's just simply to look at the pictures and photos of Simon's shoes. There he is. Look at those.
Slightly more beardy there. But let's just close on this. What you're seeing here is pure confidence. And what I mean by that is when we talk about all those other pictures, that is not pure confidence. That is somebody trying to pretend to be confident, to find reason to express myself and be comfortable without fear of judgment. This is the first time in my life where I felt like this. And that's true confidence. And I'd just like to thank everybody for the support. And stay in touch, everyone.
You're the man. If I could high five you, can we do like a virtual high five? Here we go.
Do it.
Bless you. I'm massively grateful, and I know you will have, touched and moved everyone that's watched this. Folks, if you're watching this on catch up, you can still post questions. We'll pick them up. If it's questions for me or it's questions for Simon, if you want to get in touch with Simon, he's easy to track down. We'll put his link down, and you can hunt him out in the BTFI group. If you want to join the BTFI group, come on over. And Simon Bourne, I say you're the man. So bless you. Hugely appreciative. And for everyone else, I'll see you next week at 8 o'clock. Simon,
Brilliant.
have an awesome
week.
Who
we got on next week?
Pardon?
Who we got on next week?
Next week is Steve Trister is coming on next week, who's going to talk all about collapsing the world we've got into of terrible communication in organizations. Steve is a funny man. He is tip top on communication, on presenting yourself, on impact, improv. So different to this week in so many ways. And but you'll like it. You'll like him.
Good. Oh, well, I look forward to it.
He's another cool dude.
Awesome. But he hasn't got a tank top though.
he won't have a tank top. Although if he's watching this now, he will go and buy a tank top. Knowing Steve,
that's the question.
Tank top.
If he hasn't got a tank top on next week, I'm not watching. I'm not interested.
Maybe that's what I need to. That's what I need to do. All Facebook Lives are tank top wearing. I feel a need to go and get myself a tank top. Having thrown away.
Oh, that's it, Richard. That's even more so. Like your mission is tank top for next week. Dig that one out to Kelly Byrne. There's got to be another one in the back of the cupboard somewhere.
You have a great night. Go and back to your family and rest. And lots of love, everyone else.
Right. Cheers, buddy. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye-bye.